And good morning, everyone. Welcome into our Saturday Morning Coaches Show. Don Julian here with Jared Hammack, Wildcats baseball coach, in his 16th season. And he is the dean of Sulphur Springs coaches. He's been there longer than Coach Owens.
By a semester.
Yeah, he got him by one semester. And he's been there ever since I've been covering this, I think my 15th year, or maybe my 16th. I believe it is the 16th year that I've covered Wildcats baseball, because I covered Coach Hammack's first Wildcats team with Josh Riley and that bunch. But anyway, we'll have a lot to talk about today, as it's another Wildcat season, and we'll talk about this year's edition and kind of an interesting group and the way that things have kind of shook out so far. But the good news is 1-0 in district play, and we've got a lot of that coming up, so we'll be talking about that. As usual, get into some other things real quickly here. Wildcats soccer, they had a bye last night, 5-6, and once again, and I don't know how many times this has happened, they meet the last district game of the year against Hallsville with everything on the line, and that's kind of the way I look at this. It's probably going to be one of those situations where the winner advances and the loser can just hang them up and go home. So, and once the good thing is we've usually come out on top in these situations, but I'll have to check with Coach Upton. He was unable to make it today. He's enjoying part of spring break. Coach Hammack doesn't have any idea what I'm talking about because he's been playing baseball all week. But and soccer did do in the early part of the week, but they did have that bye, and so he's taking advantage of that today. Tuesday at Hallsville for the soccer team. The Lady Cats will be at home Tuesday, and they may well be in the same situation. I have not evaluated all of the teams in that district, but it seems just to be a muddled mess. And so that'll be a big game for them at the Prim. It's senior night, and that also wraps up district for them. And they don't have by district until like March 25th through the 27th. Has to be played somewhere in those 3 dates. So they'll have about a week and a half off after their last district game to kind of get ready for the playoffs. Lady Cat softball, saw them last night, beat Longview 1-0, a real pitcher's duel. Crimson Bryant, the Lady Cats pitcher, struck out 15, and the pitcher Rios for Longview struck out 14. So it was one of those nights. Runs hard to come by, and the Lady Cats scratched out an unearned run in the bottom of the 6th. They win 1-0 in that one. So they even their district record 1-1. They're 10-3 for the season. And this week they will host Mount Pleasant on Tuesday at Lady Cat Park. And then on Friday they'll travel to Texas High to play the Lady Tigers. And girls powerlifting, next Saturday will be the state meet. That's in Corpus Christi. And one young lady in her first year in high school and one young lady in her last year in high school will be going. Michelle Allen, a freshman, qualified at the regional meet for the state meet. And Chella Moya also qualified as a senior to go to that state meet. Wildcats tennis on Friday will be at a Waxahachie tournament. Wildcats golf on Monday, after they've had spring break off, they go to a Frisco Memorial-sponsored tournament at Stonebridge Ranch Country Club, the Dye Course. So I assume that's over in the Metroplex somewhere. I'm not familiar with it, but that'll be Wildcats golf on Monday. Wildcats and Lady Cats track, they are going to a Lindale meet on Friday, and that is everybody else. So we can talk about Wildcats baseball, and kind of a mixed bag for Coach Hammack's baseball team. Mostly good, though. We'll say that real quickly. I wrote in the headline, it was a great day to be a Wildcat on Thursday as they won 2, and then kind of a tough ball game on Friday. So 2 wins, 1 loss in a Hallsville tournament, Coach.
Well, we always base our teams on good pitching and defense and being able to locate, not necessarily be hard throwers, but just locate our pitches and play good defense behind them. And, we've had a real struggle with that this season with some bright spots, as you said, and certainly three of the bright spots have happened this week. But we've thrown these guys into the fire as we do every year. It's they've had to raise their level of competition, and that first tournament in Tyler's difficult, and then the Wiley East tournament's very competitive, and then this week. Starting district with a quality Longview team that I believe was like 9-1 coming into the game. They've got a couple of D1 signees, and but we finally put it together that night. Hayden Hurst threw a great game Tuesday night, hit his spots like we hope he does, and played good defense behind him and scored enough runs. And then we come back on Thursday. Matthew Sherman threw really well. Against a good Liberty Ilo team, and then Dawson Carpenter, after kind of a shaky first inning, really settled in and did a nice job against a good Lindale team. And so we kind of thought we were over the hump and we were back kind of our normal style of play. And then we ran into another really good team, I believe a top 10 ranked 4A team in Pleasant Grove out of Texarkana. And they scored 2 in the first. We bounced back with 3 in the bottom of the first. And then I don't think we got a hit again, and we just struggled pitching and defense, and it ended up being getting out of hand. But we have to pitch well, we have to throw strikes, we have to work ahead, and when we do that, we can be successful. And when we struggle doing that, it can be a tough day.
Well, I said as I was kind of analyzing the Tyler Rose City Classic. That you've gone to, seem like almost every year. And I said the Wildcats just looked like a team that only got to scrimmage once and then lost the rest of their scrimmages due to weather. And, for a veteran team, maybe you can kind of pick that up. The guys kind of, somebody like Tyler Legacy or somebody that, a little bit more veteran team. But this Wildcat team, a lot of youngsters, a lot of players with their first or very little varsity experience. Some you had last year got to play a few games, but we know that season didn't last long last year. So a young team really probably needed 4 scrimmages more than you usually do, Coach.
Absolutely, and I've been saying the very same thing, Don, that last year's team probably could have handled what has happened to this point, but this team does have a lot of new faces. A lot of guys coming up off the JV, which again didn't get to play very much. So you almost think they lost that season, so they're really 2 years behind maybe. And Hayden Hurst, has pitched for us last year and did a good job. But other than him, we were trying to figure out who it was going to be. And you can say, well, everybody had that problem with the snow and the ice, but this particular team, I think it hit harder than any other team around just because of the youth and the inexperience. And you're right, we only got 1 scrimmage. That was the very first scrimmage, and then we missed 3.
Yeah.
Then got the 10, within the 10-day period, and then get thrown right into one of the toughest tournaments in East Texas, and just kind of throw them out in the middle of the water, and you're just trying to survive. And we had some moments in that first tournament where I could see some glimpses of what we could be. A really good Forney team who went 5-0 in that tournament. We're 1-1 going into the last inning, and they end up beating us 3-1. So, when we play well, I still feel like we can play with just about anybody around here. But at the same time, we're not good enough to just show up, make mistakes, and still beat people. So it's that fine line we don't have to play perfectly, but we have to play well, not give away the games. I've always said baseball games are more lost than they are won, and right now we're doing things that are contributing to the loss, not necessarily the other team.
Yeah, I've often said you're a much better coach when that guy on the mound is throwing well and hitting the strike zone, like Hayden Hurst did in that Longview game. I think 3 hits, 1 run, very, very strong effort, and, man, makes you look really good. But if a guy's out there struggling, and I have noticed the walk totals in a lot of the games where we've struggled, there were a lot of walks that were being issued. And, and that kind of makes for sloppiness. I think we've talked before, sloppiness on defense. When you're kind of back on your heels a little bit and the pitcher's not throwing strikes, you're not as sharp. If the ball's hit to you, you may muff it up or something.
Well, there's no doubt everything's predicated on the pitcher and how well he is doing. I'll call the pitches, and, you get into a rhythm if the guy's able to hit the spots where you want. I've studied enough where I know how to get people out if we execute the pitch in those zones. But when we're not doing that and we're all over the map, it's almost like we'll just throw it over the middle of the plate and let's, make him at least hit it. Let's don't walk him. And like I said, if you made all your plays and you didn't walk anybody, it's hard for people to score runs. You're not just going to get 10 hits every game and just beat people that way. You've got to help them, and I mean help in a negative way, with a walk, with a hit batter, mix in an error. And then they just maybe mix in one hit, but they get 4 runs out of all that because of what we have done. And, we've had games where we have put on 15 runners, made 2 or 3, 4 errors behind them, and still only get beat like a 9-5. But we just can't do that and expect to be successful. And this district's going to be a challenge. And again, we overcame the first challenge, the first hump, and a really good Longview team. And I'm excited about when we do play well. And of course, we're all trying. They're trying. It's just we're not as consistent as we would like to be right now. And once we get to that point, I think we'll be competitive every time out. But right now, it's just kind of sometimes hit or miss on the mound on whether or not we can throw strikes.
Very good, Coach. Let's take our first internal break. Back with more right after this. And back here on the Saturday Morning Coaches Show. And Coach, as we were talking about your young team this year, one thing that gave me a little bit of sense, of course, you can kind of look at things in a lot of different ways, like maybe you get a lot of hits but don't score a lot of runs. Obviously, you're not getting them at the right time. But one thing, even if you're getting, we're getting beat and, like 9-5, as you mentioned, or something, a lot of those games we were out hitting teams. We had more hits, so the guys were collecting some hits and putting the ball in play. But again, you can't overcome when the job's not being done on the mound. It's just that's more than you can overcome.
Absolutely, and that is extra frustrating when we know we have out hit most of our opponents. And this team is, I think we have over a 300 team average right now, which is good. That's what we want to do. And, maybe something we haven't done a lot in the past because, again, we've done such a good job on the mound in defense. We're just trying to scratch out 3 or 4 runs, and usually that's enough when you pitch and play defense. Right now we're having to kind of do it the other way and score a lot of runs. And we've shown some moments of, battling back where we're down and we'll come in the dugout and get 3 runs of our own. And, the guys are competing to the sense of they're not quitting and they're trying. And no matter what the score is, we're still going at it until the game is over. Again, it's just a matter of limiting our mistakes. And if we will do that, we'll be in every ball game that we play. Just right now, we've got more games where we're making the mistakes than not. And in the past, it's kind of been the other way around. And so we've got to get this turned around. And again, it's nobody's lack of effort or work. It's just not happening as frequently and as consistently as we would like. Again, it did this week. 3 times in a row, we played really good baseball. And again, gets us all excited about the possibilities. Kind of took a step back yesterday against a really good team, which I told the kids I was disappointed in because I knew this team, Pleasant Grove, was good, and I wanted to see us at our best against them and just kind of see how we matched up. Well, we didn't have our best yesterday, and so it was really hard to gauge anything. They beat us 11-3 with a lot of the mistakes self-imposed, and so that was disappointing. You don't get those opportunities often where you play a really good top-ranked team. I don't know what they are, 4 or 5 in the state and 4A. But I still thought we could beat them if we played to our level, and we just didn't get it done.
And, that's another thing with the youth, you're up and down, you're very good, you're very bad sometimes, it's just kind of, that's just a thing when you have, we've got several teams that I'm covering right now and with a lot of youth, and they can be marvelous and then they can go, oh no, right. They really do that. So it's kind of just one of those deals. Now you do have a game today. I hope the weather is in your favor. It's been, I guess, pretty good so far in Hallsville. maybe just a sprinkle here and there, maybe. That's about all we've had here. But you get Atlanta. I don't know what kind of team they are, but you get them today, 4 o'clock in Hallsville at their baseball field. So.
Well, they're a scrappy team. We have seen them play in this tournament because they've played right before us. We actually played them a few years ago in the Tyler tournament. They played 1 year in that tournament. And they're a scrappy bunch. They hustle around. And, again, we're not going to show up and just beat them just because we step off the bus. I mean, we've got to get back to playing the kind of baseball we would like to play, and that's pitchers not only throwing strikes down the middle of the plate, but throwing strikes where we can locate in and out, up and down, work ahead in the count. And I'm fine. I don't care if we strike a lot of people out. Put the ball in play and let our defense make plays, but make them hit your pitch, not because we had to throw it down the middle of the plate to avoid a walk, which is kind of what we've had to do here this season. And so I look for us to bounce back and play better, play well. Aiken Owens will go on the mound for us today, and he's typically been a pretty good strike thrower for us, and so that's what I'm going to expect out of him. And again, I'm hoping that we'll respond, and we'll see what kind of team we have, after a difficult loss and played some bad baseball yesterday. But this is a good group. We're having a lot of fun with them. They got a lot of personality. They have a good time out there, work when we need to work, and we're going to get it figured out. And again, no matter what's happened, we are 1-0 in district, and we did beat a really good Longview team, and so that's obviously a positive. I want to win every game, but if we lost every tournament game we played but win our district games, I can live with that.
Absolutely. Kind of a weirdness that we've seen for 2 years now. Always in the past, you could count on Tournament 1, Tournament 2, Tournament 3, district play. Well, last year, of course, you were playing 15 district games, so you really had to get an early start. End up playing Royce City before the Hallsville tournament. And the same thing happened this year where you had Longview in district play, and now you're playing your third and final tournament. But the good news is, starting this week, you go to a more consistent Tuesday, Friday. I know weather permitting, because anything can happen with the weather that can change dates of games because of the weather. But basically, as far as schedule, Tuesday and Friday, and consistency with district play mostly coming up.
Yes, sir, and we like that. I'm not a big fan of playing the district game before the third tournament. We had to do that last year and maybe even the year before. I like it where you play your 3 tournaments and then get started, and we could have this year had it not been the COVID issues. And so what we basically did was move our last game of district on a Friday, moved it to this past Tuesday. So it kind of gives us a week at the end of the season to wrap up any COVID-related missed games, which we've already had. Mount Pleasant and Pine Tree did not play Tuesday night because of that.
Oh, my.
So they have to try to get it done. We also are going to use every Saturday in between, that you just have to try to get that done.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and I've scheduled more probably Saturday games during district than I have. I played McKinney North a couple of times, Lindale, Rowlett.
Yeah.
But even if you have a scheduled non-district game, but it's the only time to make up a COVID-related game, you have to let that override the other. And so we're hoping that Pine Tree and Mount Pleasant will go ahead and play this next Saturday and get back on track, because you don't really want to have to do it at the very end and scrambling around and trying to get it done. So I think we've built in, there's no foolproof system, but we've built in enough to try to get it where we can get all our games in and be on time for district certification.
All right, let's take our second internal break. We'll be back with more with Coach Jared Hammack right after this. And back here on the Saturday Morning Coaches Show, talking about Wildcats baseball with Coach Jared Hammack. He's the only Wildcats baseball coach that I've ever worked with, ever known. Well, I've known, I think Ron Smith was a baseball coach in there. He was a golf coach by the time I got to Sulphur Springs High School. But Coach Hammack, the only coach I've known for those Wildcats. I look down at third base when they're hitting, and he'll be down there. And we're talking about the season, and now, of course, Coach, as you size up the district a little bit, how do you see it this year, the way the teams look?
Well, of course, Hallsville's going to be Hallsville, and T-High is going to be T-High. They both have At least I think T-High has a couple of Texas Tech signees. Hallsville, of course, they're a lefty ace who we actually beat 2 years ago as a sophomore in the playoffs. He's going to Texas State. Their big hitter, and I've heard some different stories. He's really signed with A&M. I mean, he's that good. But I think he has kind of an injury, and maybe he's just going to go the JUCO route. But they're both quality teams. Longview's got a couple of D1 signees. Their big third baseman's going to DBU, which is a really good place, and they've got some good athletes. So I mean, they're right off the top, they're that good. And then again, you know me, I never count out anybody, no matter what their record is, no matter what anybody says about them. You got to go out and play every night out, and Mount Pleasant's going to give you their best game. Pine Tree, Marshall, right down the line, and so you got to show up every night and take advantage of your opportunities. And our goal, obviously, initially, your first goal is just to get in the playoffs, because anything can happen, as we know, at that point. But then, obviously, you'd like to win a district championship. But we just want to get in, play well enough to get in, and we'll roll the dice. And it's a new season in the playoffs. But it's going to be tough. I mean, you got to play good baseball to get out of this district.
You certainly haven't had much home cooking to speak. You had one home game, I think. That was the district game for you, and you turn right around this week, and you got to be road warriors. You've got to go to Mount Pleasant on Tuesday, and then go to Texas High, and so it's a big important week for your Wildcats baseball team.
Absolutely, and fortunately, we've had a lot of success in Mount Pleasant over the 16 years I've been here. I'm not sure we've maybe lost one time out of those 16 years at their place. Maybe twice, but we've played really well there, and so I'm looking for us to do that very thing. Then you turn around on Friday and go to a place where it's very difficult to win, and of course 2 years ago, you remember we had to beat Texas High twice to get in the playoffs in the same week, including at their place, and we were able to do so. So we can win there. It's just not an easy place to play, and so it is a big week, and we want to continue our early success in district. And I don't know what the magic number is of games you have to win. You think about past seasons of what it is, but we're going to try to win each and every one of them, and more than that, just we're going to try to prepare and play as well as we can play. And I've always said, win or lose, if we play the way we're capable, I can live with that. It's just those that you've given away, you've done something to help the other team. Those are hard bus rides home, and hard nights to be able to go to sleep. I just want us to play well, and we can live with whatever happens.
Yeah, and of course you can kind of structure your pitching. You can decide on your 1 and 2. So that kind of tournaments, it's really for tinkering a lot, especially this year, where you had to kind of throw the guys out there and kind of see what they could do, and you had a lot of pitchers to evaluate. I remember your evaluation from the first scrimmage, and you liked your players' approach at the plate, and you thought you had some interesting arms that could develop. So you got to put them out there and see what they can do. And so, you're going to get some mixed results. But again, like you say, district is what you got to bring your best.
Absolutely. And I've always said that. Again, we want to win every game. I hate to lose. But tournament play is about us trying to figure out the right lineup for district. And I think we have learned a lot, particularly this weekend, over the course of all three. But this weekend especially, I think we've kind of narrowed it down to what we need to be doing and who needs to be in the lineup and what's the batting order and all of those things. And, again, sometimes you take some difficult losses and in a tournament. You don't like it, but if you can learn from it and learn about your players and learn who to put in what situations to help them be successful as individuals and ultimately as a team, then it's all worth it in the end, and I think we're getting there. Obviously, Hayden Hurst is solid number one for us, and we're still evaluating as far as maybe a 2 and a 3. Now, based on this weekend, you'd certainly have to say Matthew Sherman and Dawson Carpenter are in the mix for that number 2 slot, which again is no easy. You're about to throw one of those guys into T-High at T-High. But they're going to have to do that. If we're going to get into the playoffs and be successful, you've got to have those guys that can rise up and beat good teams. And I feel like those young men, they'll be able to do that.
You talked earlier about Dawson Carpenter in that game where he gave up the three early runs, but I had the same impression you were kind of talking about. Sometimes even the best of pitchers, the old expression, you better get them early, and a lot of times they're just kind of out of sync or something, but then they can really settle down, and I thought he really did I guess that was against Lindsay.
Right.
And kind of kept you in the ball game there until you have that really great rally. You score 3 runs, and he kept us close. And so I've noticed he's had some good outings. I thought coming in relief and stuff, and even he's had some good pitching. So
he has, and he needs to be given a lot of the credit for this past outing. First inning, he just could not throw his curveball. I mean, he was bouncing it far in front of the plate, and no matter how hard you throw, if you can only throw a fastball and you're only being able to throw it down the middle of the plate, people are going to hit you. But he was able to, from the second inning on, figure out how to get his curveball over. And once he was able to throw that curveball for a strike and ahead in the count, behind in the count, it didn't matter. Now you're a different pitcher. And it makes all the difference in the world because they can't just sit on your fastball. They can't say, well, he can't throw the curve for a strike. We'll just sit on fastball all day. Well, you can't do that once the guy proves he can throw that curveball for a strike over and over. And he was able to do that, keep them off balance, and, again, just competed really well the rest of the time. And that was a good thing to see when a guy can make his own adjustment, figure out. And, of course, he's a really smart young man, without a doubt. And so he's able to figure out what he needed to do to make that adjustment, and he did it and settled in. And you're right, he's pitched nicely a lot of times when he's had to go in this year.
And you mentioned Sherman, too. He certainly made his case. His last outing was very, very sharp, too. So
absolutely. And, when you, as a coach, I mean, we all do this. You think about, prior to the season, if you just had to set a lineup before even practice starts, what are you going to do? Well, and going in, I was thinking Matthew Sherman would probably be the number 2. He was kind of the 1A or 1B on the JV a year ago, and so figure he's probably going to be that guy. He threw really well against Sherman in the scrimmage, so I was really excited about that. Didn't throw bad in the Tyler tournament. But he has come on, and again, he threw a very effective, efficient game against Liberty Iowa. Of course, we gave him a lot of run support and scored 11, but I don't think he had to throw very many pitches within the context of that game. I think he was in the 60 range or 65 or something like that. So I like to see that efficiency. We talked about defense. When you know the guy's going to be around the zone and he may not strike out a lot of guys, they're going to put it in play. Defense is on their toes. They're ready to go. They're excited. They're making plays for you. That's the kind of baseball I like to see. Don't get me wrong. If somebody strikes out all 21, we'll take it. But it's just when we pitch well and we're playing good defense, that's a fun game to watch.
All right, yeah, that's what you want out there. I know that's the kind of, as a coach you are, you like those aspects of the game. Let's take our third internal break, back to wrap it up with Coach Jared Hammack right after this. And back here on a Saturday morning coaches show, Wildcats baseball coach Jared Hammack, and finishing up the Reich Builders Classic in Hallsville. Coach Scott Mitchell down there, coach that Coach Hammack is known for years and highly respects. And Coach, you coaching against some good guys in the district. Some of them I'm familiar with. I'm having to meet a lot of new coaches that they've kind of been away for 2 or 3 years for us, but very competitive bunch, some good bunch of guys to compete against.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of them have been around a long time. Some young guys who have done a good job with their programs early on, but they're probably at least 3 of us that have been head coaches for a lot of years. A couple in the middle, and then we actually have a brand new coach at Pine Tree because their head coach went to Spring Hill this year, and so he was their assistant, I believe, the last few years. So he has taken on the head coaching job at Pine Tree in his first year. So it's kind of a mixed bag of different coaches, but I think we all, get along well, and We're not going to try to, pull any punches on each other and try to figure out ways, or to do something that's going to hurt the other and get an advantage. I don't think you're going to see, because I hear those stories in other districts about how some coaches can be, and I don't really think we have to worry about that in our district. It's some good guys who are just wanting to compete and play the game and see what happens. And so I've known a lot of these guys for years. Some of them I haven't known very long at all, and just because I've played against them so long, the coaches at Texas High have been good friends for a long time. Then, like you said, Scott Mitchell at Hallsville, I've known probably 20, 25 years. So we've had a lot of good battles over the years, and whether it be in district play or in the playoffs, and they're always good. And you can always – I like playing those people, though, because your kids know they're good and they have to raise their level of play. Because kids are kids and they're human beings, and if they see somebody that's got a bad record, sometimes they don't show up as well as they need to. But you always know you got to show up against some of the teams that we have, all the teams that we have in this district. If you're going to be successful, you better bring your A game. Yeah.
Coach, I guess one of the joys of coaching is to see players that kind of blossom in front of your eyes. Have you seen young guys, can you name several that maybe that have made great strides this year for you, that you're seeing them just kind of become good players?
Well, and I think you could probably say everybody that has played to this point at some point has had a good game or a good at-bat. Again, we're not as consistent as I would like us to be as a whole, and sometimes even as individuals, but we've had some really good outings. All three catchers that we've had have had a good game. Whether you're talking about Jake Armstrong or Blake Weiss or young Matt Mitchell, he had an inside the park home run the other night, a legitimate one. It wasn't an error. He hit it deep center field. The guy tried to dive, one of those Jim Edmonds dives, and he just didn't get to it, and it hit around. And, of course, Matt Mitchell's a good athlete, so he can run.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even really close. I mean, it was – and I don't know that I've ever had a legitimate inside the park home run before. I think Larry Pryor, as a freshman, could have, and he dove into third base even while I'm telling him to go home, so we missed out on one of those. But and just, again, we've had – guys that are returners, an Aiken Owens. Dawson Carpenter's been a really nice surprise. Our second baseman that we've kind of mixed in there, Colt Silman and Griffin Crawford, have both had, big moments. And Colby Albritton's kind of settling in. He's a really good 9-hole, 2-strike hitter. When he gets 2 strikes, we don't really mind it because he's gonna put the bat on the ball. And our outfield is one of the best that we've had, I think, at this point. We've got some good ones. Matthew Singleton, Mayor Millsap, Gavin's brother, is in center, and Ty Stroud's done a nice job in right. And Caden Wallace, who hadn't played in a couple of years, has been a really bright spot as far as his hitting ability. I mean, you don't see a ball come off anybody's bat any harder than his when he squares one up. So I think he's been a surprise again, only because I know how difficult this game is, and you're just taking 2 years off. You don't just come back and be a superstar, and he has really settled in nicely and been a good addition for our team, and everybody likes him, and he's a good competitor, but at the same time, he can kid and joke around with you and have people laughing. So we've really been pleased with Hector Martinez, who's kind of a relief guy. He'll come in and he probably throws strikes better than anybody, and he's kind of wily, and he'll get some people out on some soft stuff here and there, and it's just a good group all over, and I'm sure I missed some because it's the biggest varsity we've had since I've been here. I think we're carrying 20 right now, which is not our norm. Gosh, off the top of my head, it'd have to be 7 or 8, I would think, in there.
You usually have a pretty good number, so that's about par.
So, and one sophomore in Matt Mitchell, and then the rest are juniors. Probably the bulk of the team are juniors who had been on the JV and are having to try to figure out, varsity baseball at a high level. Because again, we don't have any soft schedules in the beginning, and our tournaments are difficult, and this district is difficult, and so they've kind of been thrown into the fire and had to make their own adjustments just from a competitive standpoint and who we're playing, and that they have to raise their level of play, and we're getting there. We're getting there, and we're going to continue to work at getting better and competing and finding the right mix. And it may be one lineup on a Tuesday night, and it may be mostly the same, but maybe slightly different in other areas on a Friday night. And whoever's called to play has got to step up and fill that spot and do their job. And what I do know, whether we get it done or not, they're gonna do their best, and that's all we can ask.
There you go. Don't hit the panic button on the Wildcats baseball team. We saw that flash where a 3-game winning streak that Coach Hammack was talking about. That those bright spots, and I'm sure many more of those ahead for the Wildcats, and an important week coming up with 2 trips to Mount Pleasant on Tuesday, Texas High on Friday, and then unless something changes in the schedule, Lindale coming in at 1 o'clock next Saturday. A chance to get out to that beautiful ballpark and just enjoy baseball. Hopefully we'll have some good weather for it, and appreciate Coach Hammack, always ready and willing to be on. My favorite story, I have some coaching show stories, and one of my favorites is I got Bruce Silman, I think, driving the bus, circling around, waiting for Coach Hammack to get off the air. He's in full uniform, ready to go somewhere. He trots out to the service road out there, jumps on the bus, and off they go. So that's I appreciate his dedication to being on, and it's all about talking about those kids of his Wildcat baseball team. So, Coach, thank you again. And thank everyone for joining us on this Saturday morning, and I'm Don Julian, and so long, everybody.